Indictments in the death of Summer Inman.
Local businesses try to stop graffiti.
And scores are dead after tornadoes rip through the Midwest. Athens Midday starts right now.
Live from Ohio University, you're watching WOUB2, television for Athens County.
Indictments have been handed down in a kidnapping murder case. I'm Jacob Durr.
It's been 2 months since the brutal murder. I'm Leah Fry. The 2 men suspected in the death of Summer Inman are now charged with aggravated murder. William A. Inman and his son William Inman II have been charged with 2 counts each by a grand jury. They were already charged with kidnapping. Summer Inman, a woman of 3 young children, was kidnapped in March from a Logan parking lot. Her body was later found in a church septic system near Nelsonville. A 39-year-old man from the Plains has been indicted by an Athens County grand jury on 3 charges related to his accused sexual activity with a girl younger than 13 years old. David Hartzog was originally charged in Athens County Municipal Court with gross sexual imposition against the girl and the rape of a 3-year-old boy. Sheriff Pat Kelly believes the indictments happened in the Plains in 2009. Athens and Ohio University police were out in force this weekend responding to a series of weekend crimes. An Ohio University student reported to OUPD that she was groped near Morton Hall Thursday night, but that she fought back and the suspect ran away. At Courtside Sports Bar, a 20-year-old allegedly punched the glass out of a door on Friday. The APD report says the man was taken to Southeast Ohio Regional Jail. Finally, 2 men reported to APD that they were assaulted at the corner of South Court and Union Streets early Saturday. They had injuries to their faces and were taken to O'Bleness Memorial Hospital.
Thousands of people braved the sun and mud on Saturday to give this year's 8 Fest its highest attendance yet. More than 13,000 people showed up to the event, which was located in a field off State Route 56. The fest also saw a number of arrests. The Sheriff's Office and the Ohio Investigative Unit arrested 78 people, most of them for underage consumption, although some were also arrested for drug-related crimes and resisting arrest. 8 people were taken to O'Bleness Hospital and 120 were treated at the fest. The manager of Alibaba's Buggy says Athens has a double standard. Jabrail Sheikh has set up his buggy on Mill and Palmer Streets for the Spring Fest the past 10 years, but he says he was not told not to this year. Athens co-director David Paskey says vendors were not allowed to set up at the fest this year because of safety concerns. But Sheikh told the Athens News he saw people selling food from tents and even took this picture of a Domino's tent propped up for Millfest. Paskey was not available for an interview today because of a staff meeting. One of the topics was this story. Sheikh was also unavailable for an interview. He's in Columbus.
The Ohio University College of Osteopathic Medicine teamed up with Live Healthy Appalachia over the weekend to host a free health screening for the community. The screenings took place on Saturday morning as part of Live Healthy Appalachia's 2011 Health Summit. Athens MidDay reporter Allie Mazzata is live in the newsroom to tell us about the summit. Allie.
The Health Summit began on Friday with 3 separate conferences for health professionals, community members, and employers. In addition to screenings, healthcare providers offered healthy living workshops for those in attendance. Health screenings in the past for OU Comms. She says she was surprised by the amount of people that showed up at this event.
They do a diabetes clinic too that I sat in on, and I've never seen it turn out like this. I've been so busy.
Amanda Payton was also busy Saturday. She is one of 3 students who conducted free glaucoma screenings at the Health Summit.
Had a great turnout, especially with the blood pressure and lipid screenings. They've been constant all day, and we've had a good number of people here too. I think we're happy with the turnout.
Director of Community Health Programs at OU Comms says the blood pressure, cholesterol, and glaucoma screenings offered on Saturday are important to the Athens community.
A lot of times because of insurance or transportation or different things like that, people don't go out at specific times to get screenings. But this allows people to come in and it really breaks down the barrier.
However, Trace also says the screenings are the first step to healthy living.
The screening is barely invasive at all, and you really need to know your numbers because if people need to take charge of their health care, no one can do it for you. You have to do it for yourself.
Trace says that once you are screened, it's easier to make health changes.
And a lot of times it's just simple things like, walking to a neighbor's instead of driving to your neighbor's. eating things that are lower in fat, changes that you can actually make before you need to get on medication.
The Health Summit is offered by Live Healthy Appalachia. To learn about their other initiatives, visit livehealthyappalachia.org. For Athens Midday, I'm Allie Mazzata.
Thanks, Allie. Ohio University students may see an increase in fees for the 2012 school year. Ohio University's Budget Planning Council is proposing a 3.5% increase in tuition and fees and a 2.5% increase in the cost of on-campus housing. This amounts to an extra $334 per student next year and brings in-state tuition up to almost $9,900 a year. The money from both increases could go to scholarships, recruiting, deferred maintenance, graduate student stipends, disability services, and paying employees. Some are asking if Washington County could save money by combining its 6 school districts. A state report recommended cutting Ohio's school districts by 1/3. Local superintendents say that plan would take control away from the locals who would know their district best and wouldn't save much money.
Athens is an artistic town with artwork on almost every street. What you may not know is that much of this art is actually illegal. Reporter Katie Daup is live in the studio and says this could be a growing problem. Katie?
Thanks, Leah. A number of private and public businesses have been vandalized with derogatory graffiti. And while police are still investigating this situation, we went out to investigate whether graffiti is a growing problem in Athens. If you take a walk through the streets of Athens, you will quickly see artwork and graffiti everywhere. Last week, someone vandalized a number of buildings with their art on Court Street.
Somebody they spray painted a derogatory message on the back of the BP station on North Court Street. They've spray painted actually the back of the police department, City Hall, and some other places around the uptown area.
This form of expression has actually become a common sight throughout the streets of Athens.
It's one of those quality of life issues. It's not what I would consider exactly the crime of the century. You know, it's not exactly the kidnapping of the Lindbergh baby or anything, but people, I mean, it just looks terrible, and it costs people money to clean that off the side of their houses and their buildings and their sidewalks and things. And it costs the city a great deal of money. It costs the property owners a great deal of money to clean that off. And it's an issue that's become a hot button topic in the city of Athens, and rightfully so.
And even though Officer Brooks says graffiti isn't a huge problem here in Athens, an artist at OU says that having more spaces like this available for artists to work on would help the problem a lot.
I feel like there should be a lot more legal places, because I mean, if you're in a spot that is an illegal spot and there's like just one tag there, it's just going to perpetuate and snowball. But if people are allowed to do it, then it'll be less of a problem.
Brooks says that even though he knows these artists want to get their work out on the street, uptown businesses have come up with ways to prevent the vandalism.
There's enough places especially in the uptown area right now that have put up surveillance cameras that I think we're going to start getting a lot more pictures of the person actually doing it.
Artists and novices can legally tag the graffiti wall behind Siegfried Hall or the wall at the end of Mulberry Street near the Richland Avenue Bridge. For Athens Midday, I'm Katie Daup.
Thanks, Katie. So why do people tag public and private property with graffiti? At athensmidday.com, graffiti artist Devin Nolan talks about the reasons for graffiti.
A West Virginia man is in jail after refusing to pay his wife alimony, but says he hopes to change state paternity laws. Sean Keefe was given 6 months in jail after choosing not to pay the $1,800 per month alimony to his ex-wife. He says the reason is because he's no longer responsible for her and because he found out he was not the father of their son after he divorced her. He says he hopes to change the state's law that says he's responsible for the child because he was born under Keefe's marriage. However, Keefe is still agreeing to pay the $1,300 per month child support at this time, according to the Wheeling News Register. The death toll continues to rise in Joplin after the worst tornado in the state's history.
And a mudslide in Utah leaves more than a dozen people trapped over the weekend. At least 89 are dead after a massive tornado slammed the city of Joplin, Missouri last night. And that number is expected to rise as a number of rescue teams sift through the rubble. Local officials say the monster tornado left a path of destruction nearly a mile wide through the heart of the city. The twister hit at dinner time on Sunday, and it blew the roof off the city's main hospital, St. John's Regional Medical Center. Some 2,000 homes and other buildings were destroyed.
All have been affected, but we are pulling together in our Emergency Operations Center to ensure that our citizens are safe and informed as we go through this tragedy.
According to the National Weather Service, nearly 70 tornadoes were spotted in the Midwest over the weekend.
A few roads and highways in Utah are still closed because of a mudslide that trapped more than a dozen people over the weekend. Melting snow created muddy conditions in the state's higher elevations, and the weight of the water was just too much in a canyon near Salt Lake City. 17 people and 5 vehicles were trapped Saturday afternoon. Most were able to walk out of the mess with help from deputies. The most active volcano in Iceland is erupting. The Grímsvötn volcano, located under a glacier, started erupting on Saturday for the first time since 2004. The volcano has forced flight cancellations and has closed airspace over Iceland's 4 international airports. Despite the hovering cloud of smoke, police say residents and tourists have nothing to fear and no evacuations have been ordered. Last year, another volcanic eruption in Iceland disrupted air travel across Europe.
President Obama is explaining last week's comments about the Israeli-Palestinian borders that were rejected by Israel. He spoke to American-Israel Public Affairs Committee yesterday to explain last week's remarks. The president previously said the borders of Israel and Palestine should be set based on an agreement from 1967. But this was rejected by Israel's prime minister, who is usually a strong U.S. supporter. The president says the relationship between Israel and the U.S. would not change.
While we may at times disagree, as friends sometimes will, the bonds between the United States and Israel are unbreakable. And the commitment of the United States to the security of Israel is ironclad.
The president says he will now take into account changes in the country since 1967. Former Minnesota Governor Tim Paltney is officially in the race for the White House, but he may have upstaged himself. Paltney is supposed to announce his candidacy in Iowa today, which is the first state to have caucuses next year. But he released a YouTube video ahead of the event yesterday that announced his campaign themes and style. The former governor joins Newt Gingrich, Ron Paul, and Herman Cain as Republican runners who have announced their candidacy so far.
A husband and wife in Toledo have pleaded guilty to helping finance a terrorist group. Hor and Amir Akil were arrested last year after an FBI informant gave them $200,000 in cash, which they planned to send to Lebanon. The Akils had previously pleaded not guilty, but met with a federal judge in Toledo to change their plea. Prosecutors say the Akils were sending the money to Hezbollah, a terrorist organization the U.S. blames for attacks on Israel. And that rain continues to fall for the rest of the week as severe weather heads our way. Bradley Evans will have your forecast.
And Athens High School baseball will be playing on a new field next season.